The sizzling sound of a hot cast iron skillet hitting a table is the universal signal that a plate of fajitas has arrived, but this iconic dish began as a humble, overlooked scrap of meat on the cattle ranches of South Texas. Before it became a global staple of Tex-Mex cuisine, the fajita was a survival food born out of necessity, ingenuity, and the harsh realities of life on the range. To understand the fajita, you have to look at the anatomy of the cow and the history of the ranch hands who worked the Rio Grande Valley in the 1930s and 1940s. The name itself is a direct clue to its origins. It comes from the Spanish word faja, meaning girdle or strip. This refers to the skirt steak, a long, thin, and notoriously tough cut of meat taken from the diaphragm of the animal. In the mid-20th century, this cut was considered a throwaway. When ranch hands were paid for their labor, they were often compensated not just with cash, but with the parts of the cow that the ranch owners didn't want: the head, the entrails, and that fibrous, chewy skirt steak. For the vaqueros and ranch workers, this wasn't a culinary experiment, it was a challenge. They couldn't afford to waste protein, so they had to find a way to make the skirt steak edible. They discovered that by trimming the tough connective tissue and grilling the meat quickly over an open flame, they could transform a piece of leather into something savory and tender. They served it simply, often wrapped in a warm flour tortilla with a few basic condiments. For decades, this was a regional secret, a meal shared around campfires and in small, rural communities, far from the polished menus of city restaurants. The transition from the ranch to the mainstream was slow, beginning in the late 1960s. Local meat markets in South Texas started selling the skirt steak to a wider public, and small, family-owned restaurants began experimenting with the cut. But it wasn't until the early 1980s that the fajita underwent its most dramatic transformation. This is where the marketing genius of the restaurant industry took over. In 1982, restaurateurs like Ninfa Lorenzo, who operated a legendary spot in Houston, helped bring the dish into the national spotlight. However, the true masterstroke was the presentation. Restaurants realized that if they served the meat on a piping hot, seasoned cast iron skillet, the fat and juices would hit the metal and create a violent, aromatic hiss. That sound, the sizzle, became a sensory marketing tool. It was loud, it was dramatic, and it was impossible to ignore. When one table ordered fajitas, the entire room would turn to look, creating a chain reaction of cravings that turned a simple rancher's snack into the most requested item on the menu. As the dish exploded in popularity, it inevitably evolved. What began as a strict, singular focus on grilled skirt steak expanded to include chicken, shrimp, and even portobello mushrooms for a vegetarian twist. The toppings became more elaborate, moving from simple pico de gallo to a spread of guacamole, sour cream, shredded cheese, and sautéed bell peppers and onions. While purists might argue that anything other than skirt steak isn't a true fajita, the dish's success is actually rooted in its adaptability. It is a canvas that reflects the changing tastes of a global audience while still honoring its roots in the rugged landscape of the Texas borderlands. Today, the fajita stands as a testament to the power of culinary innovation. It proves that with enough heat and a bit of creativity, even the most discarded parts of a meal can be elevated into an experience that defines a culture. The next time you hear that familiar sizzle approaching your table, remember that you aren't just ordering dinner, you are participating in a tradition that turned a rancher's necessity into one of the most celebrated and recognizable dishes in the world. From the open fires of the Rio Grande to the high-energy dining rooms of today, the fajita remains a masterclass in how we transform the simple into the extraordinary.